In 1993, audiences worldwide gasped as a massive brachiosaurus stretched its neck toward the sky, water droplets cascading from its jaw as Dr. Grant stared in absolute wonder. That moment in Jurassic Park wasn't just cinematic magic, it was the culmination of a technological revolution that had been brewing in Silicon Valley for over a decade. The dinosaurs that made Steven Spielberg's vision possible were born inside the workstations of Silicon Graphics Incorporated, a company that quite literally invented the visual effects industry as we know it. SGI's machines didn't just render those photorealistic creatures, they transformed Hollywood forever, ushering in an era where the impossible became routine. Yet despite revolutionizing entertainment, reshaping scientific visualization, and powering the early internet, Silicon Graphics would eventually become extinct itself, filing for bankruptcy not once, but twice, leaving behind only fossils of what was once the most innovative company in computing. The story begins in 1982 when Jim Clark, a Stanford University professor frustrated with the limitations of existing computer graphics, decided to commercialize his research into 3D visualization. Clark had developed something called the geometry engine, a specialized chip that could process three-dimensional graphics at unprecedented speeds. Traditional computers of the era treated graphics as an afterthought, forcing users to wait minutes or hours for simple 3D renderings. Clark's vision was radically different. He wanted to create machines where users could manipulate complex 3D objects in real time, spinning them, zooming in, changing lighting, all with the fluidity of handling physical objects. He founded Silicon Graphics with 6 other Stanford colleagues and attracted initial funding of $2.5 million from venture capitalists who barely understood what they were investing in. The company's first product, the Iris 1000 workstation released in 1984, cost $45,000 but could perform graphics calculations that would bring lesser machines to their knees. SGI didn't just build computers, they built specialized graphics supercomputers that could see the future. By the mid-1980s, Silicon Graphics had carved out a unique niche serving customers that others ignored. While personal computer makers chased the mass market with cheaper, simpler machines, SGI focused on professionals who needed raw graphics power and were willing to pay premium prices for it. Aerospace engineers used SGI workstations to design aircraft wings and visualize airflow patterns. Oil companies employed them to create 3D models of underground geological formations, helping locate drilling sites worth millions of dollars. Automotive manufacturers like General Motors and Ford relied on SGI machines to design car bodies and crash test vehicles virtually before building expensive physical prototypes. The company's workstations ran on Irix, SGI's proprietary version of Unix that was optimized for graphics operations, making these machines feel alive in ways that traditional computers never could. Scientists at national laboratories used SGI systems to model everything from nuclear explosions to weather patterns. By 1986, Silicon Graphics had gone public and achieved revenues of over $100 million, establishing itself as the undisputed leader in high-end graphics computing. The company's purple logo became synonymous with cutting-edge visualization across industries. Everything changed when Hollywood discovered what SGI could do. In 1989, director James Cameron needed to create the liquid metal Terminator for Terminator 2, Judgment Day, an effect that seemed impossible with traditional techniques. Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas's effects company, turned to Silicon Graphics workstations to render the T-1000's morphing sequences. The process was painstaking. Each frame of the liquid metal effect took hours to calculate, and the final sequences required thousands of frames. But the result was revolutionary, creating a character that seemed to exist in the real world despite being entirely computer-generated. The success of Terminator 2 opened Hollywood's eyes to digital effects, but it was Jurassic Park 4 years later that truly changed everything. Steven Spielberg had initially planned to use stop-motion animation for his dinosaurs, but when ILM showed him test footage created on SGI workstations, he immediately shifted the entire production to computer graphics. The Tyrannosaurus Rex and Velociraptors in Jurassic Park were rendered on Silicon Graphics Crimson and Onyx workstations, machines that cost between $50,000 and $500,000 each. The film's 63 computer-generated shots took months to complete, with each frame requiring up to 6 hours of computation time on SGI's most powerful systems. The success of Jurassic Park created an immediate and massive demand for SGI workstations throughout Hollywood. Every studio wanted to create the next breakthrough in digital effects, and Silicon Graphics was the only company that could provide the necessary computing power. Pixar used SGI machines to render Toy Story in 1995, the first fully computer-animated feature film, a project that required 800,000 hours of computing time spread across SGI workstations. Disney employed Silicon Graphics systems to create the Stampede sequence in The Lion King and the ballroom scene in Beauty and the Beast. By the mid-1990s, it was virtually impossible to watch a major Hollywood film without seeing effects created on SGI hardware. The company's entertainment division became a significant revenue source, with workstations specifically configured for animation and visual effects. SGI's customers during this period read like a who's who of creative technology. Lucasfilm, Walt Disney, DreamWorks, Sony Pictures Imageworks, and dozens of smaller effects houses all depended on Silicon Graphics machines. The company even established partnerships with software developers, ensuring that professional animation packages like Alias Power Animator and Soft Image ran optimally on SGI hardware. During the 1990s, Silicon Graphics seemed unstoppable, expanding far beyond its graphics workstation roots into new markets that promised even greater growth. The company acquired Cray Research in 1996 for $740 million, instantly making SGI a major player in supercomputing. Cray's massively parallel supercomputers complemented SGI's visualization expertise, creating systems that could both calculate complex simulations and display the results in stunning detail. SGI also moved aggressively into the internet infrastructure market, recognizing that the World Wide Web would require powerful servers to handle multimedia content. Their origin servers powered many early internet companies, while SGI workstations became the preferred platform for web development and digital content creation. The company established a strong presence in telecommunications, selling visualization systems to companies building the internet backbone. By 1997, Silicon Graphics had reached peak revenues of over $3 billion and employed more than 11,000 people worldwide. The company's Mountain View headquarters showcased the latest in digital art and computer graphics, feeling more like a museum of the future than a traditional corporate office. SGI had become synonymous with innovation, regularly introducing new technologies that pushed the boundaries of what computers could visualize and calculate. However, even as Silicon Graphics reached its peak, fundamental changes in the computing industry were undermining the company's entire business model. The rise of powerful personal computers and standardized graphics cards began to democratize capabilities that had once required expensive workstations. Companies like NVIDIA and ATI developed graphics processors that could perform many of the same operations as SGI's specialized hardware at a fraction of the cost. Microsoft's Windows NT operating system became increasingly capable of handling professional graphics applications, reducing the appeal of SGI's proprietary Unix-based systems. The shift toward Linux as a preferred platform for technical computing further eroded SGI's software advantages. Perhaps most damaging was the collapse of the dot-com boom in 2000, which eliminated many of SGI's internet infrastructure customers overnight. The entertainment industry, always cost-conscious, began migrating to cheaper alternatives as personal computers became powerful enough to handle basic animation tasks. Even Pixar, one of SGI's most prominent customers, announced it was transitioning to Linux-based systems to reduce costs. The company's acquisition of Cray had also proven problematic, as the supercomputing market was much smaller than anticipated and faced intense competition from clusters of cheaper machines. By 2001, Silicon Graphics found itself in serious financial trouble, with revenues plummeting and losses mounting each quarter. The company that had once commanded premium prices for its innovative workstations was now competing primarily on cost against commodity hardware manufacturers. SGI attempted various strategies to revive its fortunes, including focusing on high-end visualization for scientific applications and expanding its supercomputing offerings. The company developed impressive systems like the Altix series, which could scale to thousands of processors for massive computational tasks. SGI also tried to capitalize on the emerging market for digital media and entertainment infrastructure, creating systems designed for video production and streaming. However, these efforts were not enough to offset the fundamental shift in the industry toward standardized, lower-cost solutions. In April 2006, Silicon Graphics filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, marking the end of an era for the company that had pioneered commercial computer graphics. The bankruptcy allowed SGI to restructure its debts and refocus on high-performance computing, but the company never regained its former prominence or profitability. The story of Silicon Graphics' second bankruptcy in 2009 was even more sobering than the first. Despite emerging from Chapter 11 with a renewed focus on supercomputing and cloud services, SGI continued to struggle against larger competitors like IBM and HP who could offer similar capabilities at lower prices. The company's traditional strengths in visualization and graphics had become commoditized, available in consumer-grade hardware that cost thousands rather than hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 2008 financial crisis further reduced demand for high-end computing systems as companies cut technology budgets and delayed major purchases. SGI's customer base had largely moved on to other solutions, and the company found it increasingly difficult to justify its premium pricing in a market flooded with alternatives. The final blow came when several major contracts fell through and key customers chose competing solutions. In May 2009, Silicon Graphics filed for bankruptcy again, this time leading to the company's acquisition by Rackable Systems for $25 million, a fraction of what SGI had once been worth. The acquisition effectively ended Silicon Graphics as an independent entity, with its assets and technology absorbed into what would become Silicon Graphics International Corporation. The rise and fall of Silicon Graphics serves as a cautionary tale about the brutal pace of technological change and the difficulty of maintaining leadership in the computer industry. SGI's innovations were genuine and transformative. The company literally created entire industries and made possible achievements that still inspire us today. Every time you watch a Marvel superhero soar through the sky or see photorealistic dinosaurs in a nature documentary, you're witnessing the legacy of technologies that Silicon Graphics pioneered. The company's influence extended far beyond entertainment, accelerating scientific research, enabling new forms of artistic expression, and pushing the boundaries of what computers could accomplish. Yet SGI's fate also demonstrates how quickly technological advantages can evaporate when fundamental shifts occur in underlying platforms and customer expectations. The same democratization of computing power that made graphics accessible to everyone also eliminated the premium market that Silicon Graphics had created and dominated. In the end, the company that made Jurassic Park possible became extinct itself, not through any single catastrophic event, but through the slow, inexorable evolution of an industry that never stops moving. Silicon Graphics proved that even the most innovative companies can become fossils when they fail to adapt quickly enough to a changing technological landscape, leaving behind only the magnificent achievements that remind us of what once seemed impossible.